Hello everyone, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0 and we are back in new fanfic. What if Naruto became a godly warrior and raised two demigod princesses? Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Hello, Artemis. The goddess of the hunt and moon was surprised to see her half-sister standing inside her tent. After a tiring but successful day of hunting creatures of all kinds, the last thing she expected was to see the goddess of wisdom. In fact, she couldn't even remember the last time Athena had visited her hunting camp. They would usually meet on Olympus around their aunt's hearth. She raised an eyebrow as she placed her equipment on her impromptu bed. "Hey Athena, what brings you here?" Artemis then saw the confusion and slight sadness in her sister's gray eyes and stepped closer to her. "Is something the matter?" Athena bit her lips as she smiled sadly at the huntress. "Do you have time to talk?" Artemis grew concerned and nodded, "Of course." To say that Artemis was surprised would be an understatement. Athena, perhaps the most dangerous goddess on Olympus and one of the most intimidating beings in existence, was the last person she would expect to be troubled as such. Out of the three virgin goddesses, never had Artemis thought that Athena would be the first to kiss a male. She had seen the men her sister had her brain children with, and all of them were purely intellectual mortals that would always maintain a fair distance from her, indicating their purely platonic and intellectual relations. For Athena to actually kiss one of them was equivalent of saying Lady Hera cheated on Zeus. Artemis saw the clear distress and confusion in the most intelligent goddess in existence, and it troubled her. In the thousands of years she had known her sister, never had she seen nor would have expected to her to wear such an expression. It was as if she was hurt and conflicted simultaneously, and it affected her ability to make quick and intelligent decisions. For one, it seems, the goddess Athena had no plan. She had thought that Aphrodite was the only one who missed that Naruto person. Artemis agreed that he was a great father and held no ill will for him, but no matter what, Artemis would never let any man take advantage of her sister. If this man had perverted thoughts for Athena, she would shoot him down. "I don't know what to do," Athena whispered as she stared down at her hands. "I never intended to kiss him, but I did and accepted it." She looked up at Artemis, who still looked stoic, "And I really enjoyed it." "Did he take advantage of you?" asked the huntress with a dangerous edge in her voice. "No." Athena quickly shook her head and looked up at her sister. "Naruto would never do something like that. He actually asked if he could kiss me, and I gave him permission." She looked away when she saw Artemis' shock. "It was like nothing I have never experienced before, Artemis." Artemis sighed as she reached for Athena's hand. "It's okay, Athena." She held onto her sister's hand and scooted closer to her. "But tell me honestly, what do you feel for that mortal?" I don't know." Athena bit her lips again as she looked at her sister. "I thought he was just the same as the others, just a smart man with a great mind with whom I had a child, but when I see him playing with Annabeth and heard how he prayed to me, my feelings changed. He was so sincere and genuine." She played with the hem of her dress and refused to meet the eyes of her fellow virgin goddess. "And when he hugged me, I felt like my heart was going to beat through my chest. I knew I should have pulled away, but I didn't want to. I wanted him to hold me. It felt warm and nice." Reluctantly, Athena looked up at her sister and asked, "Don't be offended, but is this how you felt with Orion?" Artemis stared at her sister with great shock and slowly shook her head. "No, not at all." She cleared her throat and quickly spoke when she saw Athena's embarrassed expression. "I admired Orion's prowess as a hunter and favored his behavior towards women, but it ended there. I never hugged him or kissed him, and I wouldn't have even if he didn't die." Thinking over her words, the huntress continued, "Right now, you sound like you love the man." Athena sighed and looked to the side. I might actually love him. Just who in Hades is this man?" Artemis rubbed her temples and shook her head. It's weird enough that he has Aphrodite missing him, now he has you falling for him. He's special, Artemis. Athena had a large blush as she spoke. He just has this warm and loving aura and I feel very safe and relaxed around him. She had a small smile as she looked back at her sister. Even back then, before our daughter was born, he could always make me laugh and I was always happy around him. Shoving the disturbing image of a laughing Athena aside, Artemis smiled. I've never seen you like this. So what do you think I should do? Artemis sighed and held onto her sister's hands. As much as I know you would hate this, you should go speak with Aphrodite. Before Athena could object, she continued, she is the goddess of love and she is in love with the same person, so no one will understand more than she. The huntress smiled when Athena gave up her retort. Just go sit down with her and talk it out, I'll even go with you if it would help. Athena squeezed her sister's hands pleadingly. Yes, please go with me. All right then, let us go home. It was a perfect morning. It was a cold night and it made the warm sanctuary of the bed all the better. The sheets were warm and crisp against his skin and his blanket was just the perfect canopy to lie over his bare torso. Apollo's sun chariot was starting to drive over the horizon and the faintest rays of sunlight shone into the room, painting the white walls orange. He had a smile on his face as he slowly regained awoken. He blissfully turned to his side and pulled his spare pillow towards him. He must have slept on his right arm because the pillow felt a little heavy, but nonetheless, he hugged it close to his chest. It was so soft and warm, but for some reason also smelled very nice, like jasmine or honeysuckle. He started to rub his cheek against the top of the pillow, but furrowed his brows when he felt something odd. It seemed that his pillow had hair, long luscious silky hair. His rationality came to him and he opened his eyes. A pair of violet eyes stared back at him as a melodic voice spoke, "Good morning, my handsome fishcake." His eyes widened and was about to cry out in shock, but was silenced when the woman slammed her lips against his. A pair of arms behind his neck and pulled him deeper into the kiss. A soft and warm tongue licked his power lip and he instinctively opened his mouth. A nice morning wrestling match between two tongues was initiated and he found himself losing the match. She ravished his mouth with extreme vigor and pushed him until he was flat on his back. It was until she was lying on top of him with her bare ass pressed against his chest that she broke the kiss. She gave him a bright smile and a wink. Don't yell, you don't want to wake the girls. His lips were still tingly from the kiss as he stared up at the familiar and loving eyes. Aphrodite. The goddess kissed him softly again and smiled against his lips. Did you miss me? It took him a few seconds, but he managed to wrap his shaky hands around her slim waist. His mind was still racing and wondering if he was dreaming a beautiful scene, but he figured that it was real. He could really feel his lover lying on top of him, feel her wonderful pressed against him, and feel her soft lips nibble at his. She was really here. Aphrodite was really here. Aphrodite gently caressed his cheek and combed her fingers through his soft blonde hair. I really missed you, Naruto. She rested her cheek on his shoulder and snuggled against him, reveling in his warmth. You have no idea how many times I've wanted to come see you like this. At his silence, she looked up and stared into his widened eyes, to come see my sweet Naruto. He shakily reached up to cup her face and tenderly ran his thumb over her cheek, making her smile and lean into the warmth of his hand. She was still as stunning as the last time they met and his heart was beating out of his chest. He couldn't help but smile up at her. His other hand brushed several strands of her long red hair behind her ear and lightly rubbed her earlobe, just like he would often do back when they were together. It felt so familiar, yet it had been many years since then. I've missed you so much, he finally whispered, making her bite her lips. I can't believe you actually came to see me. He gently pulled her down and wrapped his arms around her frame, holding her as close as he could as tenderly as he could. I never thought I'd see you again. She felt small against his frame, but also fitted perfectly. It was a little hard to believe that he was cuddling with an almighty goddess. He had no idea why she suddenly visited. Maybe she wanted to gift him with something like Athena did, but he didn't care. All he knew was that he wanted to keep her with him for as long as possible. He didn't dare let her go. He didn't want to see her vanish like she did all those years ago. Aphrodite kissed his jawline and pressed her cheek against his. Hey, don't worry. She smiled sadly as she pulled away a little from their hug. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. He stared into her eyes with a little hope. Really? I've been holding back since there is an ancient law preventing me from coming to see you, but seeing how Athena broke the law anyway, I no longer care. Aphrodite tightened her arms around his neck and kissed him again on the lips. I'm coming to see my Naruto and I'm going to stay as long as I can. Naruto pulled her close and kissed her again, relishing in her soft and tender lips. This better not be a dream. She couldn't help but feel sad at his tone and kissed him back. This is real, Naruto. I'm really here. The goddess continued to kiss her lover tenderly, gently sucking on his lower lip as she pulled away. I'm sorry for leaving you alone. I didn't want to, but even the gods have to abide to ancient laws most of the time. It's stupid, really, but it's been that way for millennia. She held him close and kissed him with as much love as she could muster. I really love you, Naruto, I really do. He smiled against her lips and nodded. I know. He stared into her eyes and spoke. I love you, too. Some tears welled in her eyes and a few managed to escape. I watch over you and Lacey constantly, Naruto. You are the best father I have seen in the past 1,000 years. I can feel the love you have for our little girl and the love she has for you, and it is rare, especially among children of the gods. She snuggled closer to him and rested her head in the crook of his neck. But from now on I promise that you won't be doing it alone. I will be here with you and be the mother both the girls need. Naruto was surprised. Be both the girls? Aphrodite smile. Athena loves Annabeth like I do Lacey, so I guess when she's not here I could act as her mom as well. She pulled back to look into Naruto's widened eyes. The girls need a mother figure in their lives, and while I haven't got much experience with being a nice and loving mother, I intend to do my best. I'll even ask for Hera's help if I have to. The blonde was stunned and couldn't think of what to say, so he did the only thing he could at the moment. He kissed her with as much compassion as he could muster. Thank you, he managed to mutter against her lips as his emotions overwhelmed him. I love you. He pushed her onto her back and climbed on top of her, ravishing her mouth, just as she liked all those years ago. She kissed back vigorously. I love you, too. Suddenly there was a series on knocks on his door. Dad, are you okay? Naruto's eyes widened at Annabeth's voice and quickly broke the kiss. Why yeah, I'm fine, honey. He got off of the goddess and quickly threw on his bathrobe, just in case. What is it? You usually come wake me up before my alarm clock goes off. Aphrodite giggled quietly at the sight of Naruto trying to outsmart his daughter with Athena. I'm sorry sweetie, but I slept in a little and forgot to. He sent the goddess a pleading look as he continued to think of excuses. I'll go make breakfast in a bit. Just go wake up your sister and help her get ready. Annabeth sighed and started to walk away. Fine. You're such an adorable father. Aphrodite climbed out of bed, revealing her completely body to her lover. Naruto's blood rushed to both his heads and it made Aphrodite giggle. You definitely deserve a reward. She kissed his neck and delicately licked her way to his jawline, but I think your daughters are waiting for you to cook for them. Naruto felt hot under the collar and reached down to grab one of her perfect ass cheeks. You're really making it hard for me. She giggled and rubbed against him, in more than one way. The goddess smiled as she leaned up to peck him on the lips, but if you don't want that genius of a daughter of yours to find out about me too soon, you better get out there and start cooking like a good family man. She giggled again at his frown and winked at him. Don't worry, I'll make sure to give you your reward tonight. Fine, but where are going to do now? Don't worry, I can become invisible to everyone but you. She patted him on the ass and pushed up towards the door, now to take care of the girls. Olympus, Aphrodite's temple. Find her anywhere. Athena shook her head at her sister with a frown. They had searched all over Olympus for the goddess of love and still couldn't find her. They had asked Eros and some of her handmaidens, but none had seen her since the night before. Artemis sighed and shook her head. Sometimes that airhead is harder to find than some of the sneakiest creatures I hunt. Maybe she's over at Ares' temple. The goddess of the hunt sighed and shrugged. It's possible, though I hate that place. If I hear one more story about one of his manly wars, I will put an arrow in his kneecap. Athena smiled and pulled her sister along. Come on, sister. Daddy, I want 10 strips of bacon, please, exclaimed Lacey with a grin, and 5 eggs and 10 sausages. Naruto smiled at his little princess and shook his head. You'll have the usual, sweetie. Annabeth was munching on a bowl of cereal as she waited for the hot breakfast. She was looking down at her lap where she was hiding a book. She was reading about the building procedure of the Parthenon in Greece and was almost up to the part where it would describe the statue of Athena, her favorite Greek goddess. Though she would often look up to check if her dad was looking back at her, he didn't like it when she would read at the dinner table. Yeah, I'll just have the usual, Dad. Unknown to the girls, Aphrodite was sitting right next to them with a happy smile on her face. She was wearing a simple bathrobe after Naruto had asked her to. He didn't want to see her while his daughters were in the same room, and was happily humming a tune as she watched the girls interact. Annie is so much like Athena, it's hilarious. Naruto smiled when he heard his lover's voice. He was also the only one who could hear her. I always see her doting all of us around on Olympus just like how Annie would dot Lacey around. She's a nice big sister. Naruto placed 2 plates down on the table and smiled at his lover. Eat up, girls. We don't have a lot of time this morning. Aphrodite rested her chin in one hand and winked at Naruto, who was trying to act normal. Her robe was not tied very well and the amount of cleavage shown was distracting him. He was even glad that Annabeth was trying to sneak in some reading time while breakfast. She is far too focused in her book that she didn't notice his slight blush and fidgety reflexes. You know, started Aphrodite with an amused smile. You've never really cooked for me before. The blonde sent her a pleading look while trying to convey a message with his eyes, and it made her laugh. Back when they were together, they mostly went on dates to fancy restaurants, went dancing at clubs, or were trying the kinds of candy Naruto would order from France. They actually never really spent a normal day at home and cooked their own meals. You better cook for me tonight. Daddy. Naruto jumped a little at his baby girl's voice. We're going to the costume store tomorrow, right? Naruto smiled and nodded. Yep. Can Percy come with us as well? Asked Annabeth as she looked up from her book. He's going to be trick-or-treating with us anyway. Lacey giggled and winked at her sister. Yeah, Annie wants her boyfriend to come with us. Aphrodite squealed and clapped her hands. Oh, Lacey might be on to something here. You and Percy aren't dating each other, right? Naruto paled a little at the thought of his princess having a boyfriend. He actually liked Percy, so he couldn't use his shotgun on him, and that made it even worse. Remember, no dates until you're 18. Dad, cried the daughter of Athena with a deep blush. Percy is not my boyfriend. Aphrodite squealed again and clapped. Ah, she's so adorable. Annabeth avoided everyone's glances and quickly put her book away in her backpack. It's time for school, let's go. She jumped out of her seat and swung her backpack onto her back, but did not walk away before she sent Lacey a glare. Come on, Dad. Lacey giggled again and followed after her sister. Why, are you meeting up with Percy at school? Shut up. Hey, you can't be this rude to Percy, you know. Lacey poked her sister's ribs and laughed at her red face. I mean, you call him seaweed brain all the time, sooner or later he won't like you anymore. Annabeth glared at the shorter girl, her gray eyes gleaming. Don't be mad at me, it's not my fault you're bad at this stuff. You're 5 years old, you shouldn't even know about these things. Lacey crossed her arms and shook her head, and you're 9 years old, you should know about these things. And how come you're so smart at everything, but so dumb when you talk about Percy? Annabeth, with a deft and skill swipe, ran her fingers through Lacey's and messed up her curls. And it's not my fault that you're so dumb at doing your own hair. Hey, Lacey was outraged, fix my hair. The older blonde girl smirked and leaned closer to her sister. No, do it yourself. Aphrodite nearly fell off her chair from laughing so hard. Annabeth and Lacey acted almost exactly like her and Athena. The only difference would be instead of Athena messing up her hair, she would threaten her with a giant spear. It was adorable to see such symmetry between their children and them. As much as Athena may annoy or anger her, Aphrodite did enjoy their occasional squabble, except the ones where Athena would suggest her pair Naruto with some random mortal woman. Okay girls, stop fighting. Naruto stood and gave them both a stern stare. Come on, we don't want to be late for school. Olympus. Ares' temple. Nah, I have no idea where she is. The god of war gave the goddess of warfare an annoyed look as he continued to sharpen his golden blade. I've been looking for her for days already, but for some reason she is avoiding me or something. He sighed and shook his head. She's hiding her aura and I can locate her no matter how hard I try. Artemis smirked. Maybe she finally woke up and decided to not be with you. The goddess of the moon never understood why Aphrodite would want to be with her half-brother. He was such a bloodthirsty moron and was idiotic constantly, even more so than her twin. Ares growled and the fire in his eyes flared, literally. Watch it, Huntress. When was the last time you saw her? Asked Athena, giving her brother a stern stare with her stormy eyes. Ares shivered a little at the look. About a week ago, but she was acting weird back then as well. He resisted the urge to rub his recently healed cheek. The goddess of love could be very strong when she wanted to. After that she started to avoid me and I haven't seen her since. A week ago, thought Athena as she crossed her arms, that about when we watched Naruto and the girls through Aunt Hestia's hearth. Artemis sighed. Maybe we should just wait a while. I'm sure she'll show up sooner or later. Athena turned away and pulled her sister along. I think it's time to find our other brother. She gave the huntress a knowing look, which made her groan. He is the all-seeing. Come on, he's so annoying. It had been a long time since Aphrodite had ridden a car, but it was quite nice. The mortals seemed to have made significant improvement to their transportation. The last time she rode a car it moved much slower. Though the overall experience of the ride was probably so good because it was Naruto who was driving the car and the two little girls were in the backseat glaring at each other. I said I'm sorry, Annie. Lacey glared at her sister as she held a small mirror to check her hair. Can you please fix my hair? The older sister's gray eyes looked down at Lacey and made the little girl shiver. No, this will teach you to never tease me again. But I wasn't lying. Lacey pouted and brushed her hair. I know you have a crush on Percy and you're just too scared to admit it. Annabeth glared at her and gritted her teeth. I don't have a crush on him. Naruto groaned and shook his head at the noise. Normally he would have stopped their bickering as soon as it started, but the current subject was highly uncomfortable for him. The mere fact that one of his little girls may have a crush on a boy was a little devastating and he was already having a hard time coping with it. Aphrodite, on the other hand, was quite happy. I think Lacey is right about Annabeth, she chirped with a bright smile. She's still a little young, but some puppy love can't hurt. The father of two looked over at his lover with pleading eyes, praying silently to her that Annabeth would remain a little girl forever and won't fall for some boy. But the goddess only smiled back at him and giggled at his troubled expression. She was having the time of her life. Spending time like a family was really a lot of fun. Not her usual type of fun, but a harmonious fun. She even conjured a nice normal outfit for herself. A simple pair of gray skinny jeans, a red silk shirt and a black blazer, to match the simple mood of their day. Okay, we're here, exclaimed Naruto as they drove into the school parking lot, obviously relieved that he wouldn't have to listen to the conversation along longer. Enjoy your classes and I'll be here at the usual time. Annabeth routinely kissed her dad on the cheek and jumped out of the car, but not before glaring at her sister once more. Lacey, on the other hand, had a pout on her as she left the car, still trying to fix her hair to no avail. Though Aphrodite felt sympathetic for her little girl and snapped her fingers, instantly fixing her hair. Ha! Look, Annie! Cried Lacey as she ran to catch up with her sister. I fixed it all by myself. Aphrodite laughed and reached for Naruto's hand. The girls are so cute. Naruto smiled and squeezed her hand affectionately. You should see them when they're cranky, they'll drive you crazy. I will, she said immediately with a smile. I'm going to stay with you, remember? The blonde couldn't have been happier at that moment and silently nodded. And you will soon find out that they will be even crankier when they start having their periods. Don't even speak about that. Olympus, Apollo's temple. Lil, sis, cried an ecstatic Apollo as he ran towards Artemis, but quickly stopped when a pale arrow nearly pierced his head. Artemis gritted her teeth and smacked her brother atop the head. For the last time, I am not your little sister. The goddess of the hunt pulled on Apollo's ear and dragged him closer. I helped mother birth you, so I'm the older twin. Athena sighed and just waited silently for them to stop. She had forgotten the last time she visited the god of the sun's temple and her eyes were a little sore just looking at it. It was a large Parthenon made completely out of solid imperial gold and was shining like the afternoon sun. It was quite majestic, but it was far too bright for her tastes. Fine, fine, just let go of my ear. The goddess of the moon relented and pushed the hyperactive sun god away, crossing her arms and stared at him sternly. She looked over at Athena and nodded at her, silently saying that she could begin her questioning. Apollo, please tell us where Aphrodite is. Apollo raised an eyebrow and nursed his bruised ear. Wow, so you really came looking for her, he muttered before he chuckled. Sometimes that woman is even more clear-sighted than I am. Athena crossed her arms. What do you mean? Dite came to see me a few days ago and told me to not tell anyone where she is, especially if it is you, Athena. The two goddesses were surprised and looked at each other confused. She made me swear on the river Styx that I will not tell on her, so sorry, I can't help you. Artemis scoffed and placed her hands on her s. What the hell did she do to make you swear on the river Styx? Apollo grinned and winked at his sisters. She is going to make sure that all of my children will lead very nice lives. He laughed and mentally patted his back. They're all good-looking children, but now they will all be happy and will have plenty of lovin'. He made a peace sign and winked again, just like their daddy. Disgusting, muttered Artemis as she shook her head. Hey, they're your nephews and nieces. The moon goddess glared at him. Your children annoy the hell out of me. Don't think for a second that I've forgotten that one of your stupid sons jumped into my chariot in the middle of the night with that weird friend of his. Apollo looked scandalized. Oh, come on. Neil Armstrong was one of my best sons and he still is an international hero. And Buzz Aldrin is a cool dude. Artemis scoffed. He was a demigod that should have seen through the mist, but he still joked around with that stupid human space program and landed that damn space module in my chariot. If he wasn't my nephew, I would have shot him out of the sky and sent him to Tartarus. It's not my children's fault that your chariot is so mellow. You don't see them trying to walk on my chariot. The sun god glared at his little sister and glowed, and it's not some stupid human space program, it's called the Apollo program. Mother is right. You need to find a wife to knock your ego down a peg. Don't bring mom into this. This is going to take a while, thought Athena as she rubbed her temples. So where are we going now? Aphrodite smiled at Naruto and kissed him on the cheek. Nowhere special. I just want to spend a normal day with you. Just do whatever you usually do and bring me along. She wrapped her arms around his as they got out of the car. I just want to spend some quality time with you. I would love that. Naruto walked into Grand Central Station and ignored everyone who was gawking at Aphrodite's beauty, but he did glare at some of the men who were leering at her. It had been quite a while since he had spent time with her and he had almost forgotten how much attention she would attract. He placed his hand on her waist and pulled her close, showing that she belonged to him. Aphrodite giggled and leaned into Naruto. Don't worry, you're the only man I love. He smiled and kissed her softly on the lips. I love you, too. It was the best day ever. Sally Jackson was stunned as soon as she walked into Sweet on America. Right in the middle of the store, between the chocolates and the wine gums, her boss was making out with perhaps the most beautiful woman she had ever seen in her life. She was so gorgeous that Sally had a hard time believing that she was real, so much so that she had a hard time concentrating on her. It was as if her features would constantly change. The tone of her skin was a little tanned at first, but soon Sally noticed that it was actually a creamy white shade of perfect skin. It was the same with her hair. It looked dark brown at first, but after Sally blinked it turned into the most stunning of red tresses that flowed to her lower back. It was hard to believe that someone so stunning would actually exist. Sally! Exclaimed Naruto as he pulled away from the kiss, blushing at the fact that his employee walked in on him and Aphrodite. Gee, good morning. Sally looked sheepish and turned away. I'm sorry I interrupted you too. Some melodic giggling pulled Sally's attention back to the couple. It's all right, dear. The goddess wrapped her arms around Naruto's and smiled. We're sorry you had to see us like that. We'll get out of your way. She pulled Naruto to the office in the back as she gave Sally a friendly wave. We'll be in the office if you need us. But I should help set up. Aphrodite pushed her lover into his office and lightly closed the door behind them. Naruto groaned as he sat down on his chair, shuddering at the thought of the awkwardness later in the shop. He was quite thankful that his other employees were coming in later and didn't see him such a compromising position. He had tried hard to establish a formal but friendly attitude for his employees, but that might be for naught. I should have remembered that you have employees coming, the goddess muttered as she looked at her image through a mirror she magically summoned. We're lucky we saw her so quickly. People usually see me as the perfect beauty of their interpretation, but now that I'm staying with you, I'm going to permanently take the form you see as me. The mirror vanished as she sent him a wink. Since I'm going to meet the people around you, it is best that I keep a constant appearance. Naruto nodded, but was still blushing. That's a good idea, but I wish that I could have remembered that I had people coming in earlier. Aphrodite giggled and sat down on Naruto's lap. Don't be embarrassed, that wasn't as bad as the time the waiter caught us at our booth. Don't even remind me of that, replied a red-faced Naruto as he wrapped his hands around the goddess. It took me a long time to forget about it. To this day I haven't returned to that restaurant. She giggled again and kissed him softly. Oh, come on, everyone in the restaurant was jealous of you. Naruto chuckled and kissed her back. I guess that's true. And it wasn't as if you didn't enjoy what I was doing to you. Aphrodite nibbled on his lower lips as she stared into his eyes. I remember that it was your loud moaning that alerted the waiter that night. She giggled as she felt something poke her between her legs. I don't blame you, though. Naruto stared hungrily at Aphrodite and his hands started to roam her body. You're making it really hard for me to not take you right here on my desk. Oh, that's kinky. The goddess bit her lip as she leaned down closer to him. Do you have some sort of fetish of fooling around in the office? Did you do it here with some other girl? Naruto closed his eyes and blissfully breathed in her scent as he kissed her neck. I haven't been with anybody since you left. What? He chuckled at her surprise and just continued to kiss and nibble at her sweet skin. It's not that surprising. Having two little girls doesn't exactly give me a lot of time for dating. He pulled back a little and stared into her widened violet eyes. And I really loved you and still love you, so it was hard for me to find someone else. She bit her lips as a surge of guilt and sadness filled her. Though I would be lying if there weren't some pretty ladies, but they're just not you. The goddess gently cupped his face and lovingly kissed him. I'm so sorry. Naruto smiled and shook his head. You have nothing to be sorry for. The important thing is that you're here now. I will never hurt you again, she whispered against his lips. I love you more than I've ever loved anyone, and I'm staying with you. She snuggled and rested against him. We'll be together from now on and live as a family, the four of us. Sounds good. He pulled her down and kissed her tenderly on the lips, slipping his tongue into her warm and wet cavern. She tasted like honey and he was once again becoming addicted to her taste. He had nearly forgotten about how wonderful it felt to kiss Aphrodite, but with only one kiss all his desires and addictions rushed back. He wanted nothing more than to make sweet love with the woman he loved, and give her as much pleasure as he could give. I love this man so much, thought Aphrodite as she wrapped her arms around his head and added more pressure into the kiss. It was incredible. In all of her immortal life she had never felt so much affection for any person. It dwarfed whatever affection she had for Ares or Adonis. It was completely in a class of his own. For the goddess of love who had been in love countless times before, it was truly something special. This is the real thing. He's my true love. Naruto slowly reached into her blazer and started to slip his hand under her silk shirt. Her skin felt just as smooth and creamy as it did all those years ago, and it made his desire amplify tenfolds. He wanted to have her under him again, moaning his name in ecstasy. He wanted to feel her warmth, her wetness, and her love. He wanted to take her again and again until he made her fall in love with him even more. But all his plans were obliterated when someone knocked on his office door. Who is it? Cried Aphrodite as she turned to the door with an intense glare, resisting the urge to blast the person to Hades. It was Sally. I'm sorry for interrupting again, but everyone is here and we need Mr. Namikaze to come start the registers and give us the plan of the day. Naruto was disappointed, but smiled at the adorable angered look on the goddess' face. I know, Sally, I'll be out in a second. Waiting until the footsteps were gone, he turned to the woman on his lap. It's okay, beautiful, we have the whole night tonight. Aphrodite smiled saucily and kissed him tenderly. You better be ready for it. I've been ready for years. Olympus, Athena's temple. After an hour-long argument between Artemis and Apollo, Athena finally managed to drag that goddess of the hunt back to her temple. She had to wonder if her arguments with Poseidon were as annoying and stressful as the twins. The goddess of wisdom couldn't believe the massive headache she got just from listening to the siblings argue about who their mother loved more. It was nearly as bad as when Zeus and Poseidon would argue over Mother Rhea. That damn arrogant moron. Artemis was still angry as she stomped into Athena's temple. I can't believe he thinks his son's better than my hunters. Athena sighed and rubbed her temples as her sister rambled on. Zoe alone can defeat all his sons. Can we please get back to our original objective? Artemis groaned. Honestly, who knows where that lovesick goddess is? Well, it's not that hard to guess, she muttered as she sat down in one of her many chairs. For Aphrodite to extend such a favor to our brother means that she really doesn't want anyone to find her, and there is only one reason that could possibly make act so careful. You mean? Athena nodded with a sigh. Yes, I think she went to find Naruto. She is going to get into so much trouble, Artemis mumbled. At least you only stayed there for a few minutes, but from what we've gathered, she's been there for at least 8 hours. The goddess of the moon sighed as she looked down at her sitting sister, and I don't think she's going to come back soon. That stupid woman, grumbled Athena angrily. If Ares or Hephaestus find out she's so close to Naruto, they are going to kill him. You're right. They will definitely do something like that. I'm going to go find her. Athena stood and started to glow. Are you coming with me? Artemis sighed and nodded. Yes, at this point I'm a little committed. She stepped closer to her sister and crossed her arms, though I need to go back to the camp for a little while and ask Zoe to drive the chariot for me tonight. Do you mind coming with me first? Of course not. Let's go. Here, try this one, chirped Aphrodite as she happily fed Naruto a small strawberry truffle. Ignoring the slightly awkward glances from Sally and his other employees, Naruto smiled and gladly accepted the treat. For the past few hours Aphrodite had been looking over the selections Naruto had in his store and provided him with a list of items he should omit. There were many products in the store that she said was an insult to sweets, and Naruto knew perfectly that no one knew more about candy than the goddess of love. Though there were many she adored and she was busy with feeding them to Naruto, sometimes from mouth to mouth. Delicious. The goddess giggled and turned her attention back to the laptop, typing in all the candies she wanted to order from various places on Earth, mostly from France. Every one of Naruto's employees were surprised at the amount of knowledge their boss's girlfriend had on sweets. Ever since she opened the laptop, she had been typing names after names of candies along with their various ingredients and their manufacturing process. Naruto smiled at her enthusiasm and pecked her on the cheek. Thanks for helping out. No problem at all. Looking at the clock, Naruto smiled and clapped his hands. Okay, it's time to close up. Sally and the others smiled and nodded. Thanks for the great day, guys. The boss stretched his arms and grinned. Remember to come meet us tomorrow, Sally. Sally smiled back and nodded. Of course, Percy is very excited about it. Oh, exclaimed Aphrodite excitedly as she turned to Sally, making her a little nervous. You're Percy's mother. Yes. Tell me, do you think your son has a crush on Annabeth? Dite, cried Naruto, horrified at the prospect of his baby girl liking a boy. Sally giggled and shrugged. I actually asked him that a few days ago and he blushed and yelled at me, so I definitely think he does. Boys, huh? Aphrodite giggled and clapped her hands together, getting angry whenever they try to deny something. Nobody has crushes on anybody. Naruto waved his hands around and shook his head. My baby girl does not like any boys. The goddess merely pointed at Naruto with a smirk. See? Ignoring Sally's laugh, Naruto grabbed his girlfriend's hand and led her out the store. With a quick goodbye and a reminder to lock the door to his employees, he left the store and headed towards his car, all the while trying to rid the disturbing thought of one of his princess dating some boy. They will always be his little babies and will never like any boys. No, just no. Aphrodite giggled at Naruto's reaction and hugged his arm close. He was just too cute. She loved teasing him about Annabeth liking that Percy boy. The way his eyes would widen and his body would shiver was just too funny. It was very sweet of him, but he would have to face the facts sooner or later, and she would be there to see it, and laugh about it. In fact, she had already planned out of daughters' love lives. She would make sure that they would both be very happy. All she needed was to meet Percy so she would plan his life together with Annabeth's. For my birthday present, maybe you could make it so that Annabeth and Lacey will never like any boys. The goddess grinned and shook her head. Never. Those girls are beautiful and deserve the best love lives. Naruto paled at the thought of his girls spending nights with boy and shook his head viciously, making her giggle. Don't worry, Daddy, both girls will have a very happy marriage and a great family. She smiled up at her lover. I promise. I guess that's better than nothing. Come on, you big baby, let's continue our day. Aphrodite let go of his hand and got into the passenger seat of the car before she grabbed his hand again. Where are we heading next? We'll go pick up the girls and go to the supermarket to get something for dinner. Sounds fun. In the past week, Hestia had been enjoying her job as a teacher. She had always adored the children of her siblings and would treat them as her own, but even including them, Lacey was quickly becoming her favorite. The little girl was adorable, even more so compared to the other children of Aphrodite she had met before. Hestia could see so much of the goddess of love in the little girl, most prominently in Lacey's bubbly personality and charming smile. The way her eyes would light up at the sight of a fresh batch of cookies just melted Hestia's heart. "Thank you, Ms. Hess," exclaimed Lacey as she quickly grabbed 3 cookies from the tray. "I love you." Hestia giggled before she began to attend the other children. "I love you too, sweetie." Hestia had made a tradition out of handing out fresh baked cookies at the end of the school day, and the children had never been more excited about anything. The parents were all happy at how happy their children would be when they picked them up and was perfectly fine with the cookies. They were mostly oatmeal and were healthy. From the corner of her eyes, Hestia watched as little Lacey stand beside her sister, both seemingly waiting for their dad. The goddess of the hearth almost squealed in delight when she saw Lacey split half of her last cookie and gave it to Annabeth. It was endearing to see such love between 2 demigods with different godly parents. The Olympian siblings had never been very close, except for Hestia, who was loved by everyone, so seeing such a scene was heartwarming. Then a familiar car drove into the parking lot. "Daddy!" cried Lacey as she jumped into her dad's arms. "I'm hungry, can we get some ramen?" "No, I want sweet potato mash and ribs." Annabeth held onto her dad's hand and looked up at him. "Or baked potatoes and roast beef, that's good too." Naruto playfully rolled his eyes and kissed both his baby's forehead. "We'll decide when we get to the supermarket." Hestia smiled when they looked over at her direction and she waved over at them, smiling at their wonderful family. In the domain she shared with her little sister Hera, Hestia would often feel delighted at the sight of happy families, and Naruto certainly was one of her favorites. But then she caught sight of something inside their car. As that, whatever she saw disappeared as soon as she laid eyes on it, but she distinctively felt a very familiar aura of power. "Don't tell me she actually came down here. That was far too close." Aphrodite sighed in relief as she appeared back inside Naruto's home, holding her hand to her chest as her breathing leveled out. She had forgotten that she and Athena had asked Hestia to look after their daughters. She had no idea the goddess of the hearth would actually pose as Lacey's teacher, but she had to admit that it was very smart. It was very dangerous. Hestia had almost seen her, and if she didn't teleport that instant, she might have been sent back to Olympus. "I better not teleport back to the car yet, Hestia might be looking for me." Seeing how she had time before Naruto and the girls would come home, she decided to explore her new home, or the most important part of her new home, the master bedroom. Now that she only had one lover, she planned to have an amazing life with him. Even several years ago, Naruto was an incredible lover. His stamina, strength and overall huskiness made her loin burn and knee quiver. She had missed making love him with over the years and couldn't wait to spend the night with him. Especially after she took Hera's sacred bath. Just thinking about it made her giddy, and she skipped all the way to the bedroom. It was exhilarating. Hera was absolutely right. A wife preparing a wonderful night for her husband felt very why. Just the thought of Naruto as her husband made her heart flutter. She had decided to not use the more powerful of her love magic on Naruto, but she still had her bag of tricks. Naruto's world will flip upside down in the morning. With a snap of Aphrodite's fingers, the room was filled with a subtle scent of her personal brand of aphrodisiac, one that will make Naruto lust for her even more than before. Then with a flick of her wrist, the simple white curtains morphed into a luscious sheet of deep purple silk, the white walls turned an elegant shade of purple, and the hardwood floor turned into rich and fluffy black carpet. Then the most important part, the bed. The simple queen-sized bed changed into a magnificent king-sized bed, with a 7 feet tall black leather headboard with intricate silk designs, a wide black wooden frame with a lighted edge, a perfect mattress made out of the softest celestial cotton and wool, and the most beautiful purple and black bedspread with knitted patterns worthy of Athena. With one last wink to the lights, it dimmed to a soft fluorescent glow. Perfect. With a pretty smile, she turned to the final object in her way. Now, what to do with all these books? But her smile soon faded when she saw all the books on Greek mythology. She shouldn't be surprised that Naruto decided to read up on their tales after having children with two Greek goddesses, but she wasn't too excited about it. Her actions in the past hadn't exactly made her an angel in the eyes of mortals. She was exactly ashamed of her past lovers, but she wanted Naruto to know that she was only with him now and those other men were out of the picture. She had to assure him that her relations with him was nothing like her marriage to Hephaestus. She truly loved him and would truly marry him. Daddy, let's hurry and eat. Shaking her head of her troubled thoughts, Aphrodite snapped her fingers and made the 3 bookshelves vanish before she teleported down to the main floor. The scene that greeted her made her feel better instantly. Naruto was walking into the kitchen holding a bag of groceries, then Annabeth followed after him with another bag in her arms, and Lacey just skipped after them with a lollipop in her mouth. Calm down, Princess, dinner will be ready soon. Naruto's eyes met with the goddess of loves and relief quickly rushed through him, making her smile. She walked up to him and gently kissed his cheek, making him smile silently and continued to put the groceries away. I'm sorry I suddenly vanished like that, she began. I thought someone was messing with my domain somewhere in Spain, so I had to quickly check. Naruto smiled and nodded. So, are you girls okay with having just spaghetti and meatballs? Aphrodite smiled at Naruto, who was looking at her as he spoke, and nodded. That sounds delicious. The goddess used her illusionary powers to hide her plate and food from the girls so she could eat at the same table as them, her first family dinner ever. I love everything you cook, honey. Oh, she had waited a long time to call someone that. Naruto winked at her. Thank you, honey, he whispered softly. Artemis Hunter Camp. Yes, milady, I will prepare for the flight immediately. Artemis smiled and nodded at her lieutenant and closest friend. While Athena may have her brain children, her hunters were like her own flesh and blood. Her older hunters, Zoe and Phoebe, may be more like sisters, but all the others were like her daughters. In a way, Artemis would sometimes think, she had also found a way to keep her chastity and feel like a mother. Athena smiled and nodded at the huntress as well. Thank you, Zoe. It is of no inconvenience, Lady Athena, I am glad to help. As Zoe went to prepare the moon chariot, Artemis turned to Athena with a smile. Are you hungry, sister? Maybe we should join my hunters for dinner before we head for New York. The goddess of wisdom smiled and nodded. I would like that. It's been a long while since we've had dinner in your camp. Artemis smiled and led Athena to the camp by the hand. My hunters may not be as skilled as Aunt Hestia at cooking, but I'm sure you'll like it. Good night, Princess, whispered the blonde as he kissed his baby girl's head. I love you. After finally convincing Annabeth to stop reading her new book and go to bed, Naruto began to tuck Lacey in. The little girl was already tired from her day at school and was semi-asleep when he carried her to her room. As mature as she was with love and her sister's crush on Percy, traits she inherited from her mother, she was still a little girl and definitely acted like one to her daddy. Now, onto his most anticipated part of the day, spending the night with Aphrodite. All throughout dinner, Naruto's mind had been wondering about the night. He could still vividly remember the last time he made love to the goddess of love, and it would still exhilarate him every time he thought about it. He just wished his prowess in bed didn't diminish over the years and he could still satisfy her. She wasn't like his girlfriend like before, she was going to stay with him, more like a wife. That took the pressure to a whole new level. Don't be nervous, whispered a beautiful voice to his ear as a pair of slender and soft arms wrapped around his waist from behind as he walked into his room. Just let your feelings guide you and make love to me, just like you had so many times before. Naruto turned to face her and pulled her closer. I plan to. Aphrodite closed the door behind and locked it securely. She snapped her fingers to make her current clothes vanish. Her jeans were replaced with a tiny thong and her silk shirt changed into a lacy red ribbon tied together quite precariously. She stepped up to a stunned Naruto and wrapped her arms around his neck, pressing her large S against his chest as she did so. You're just perfect. Aphrodite smiled and leaned up to kiss him lightly on his lips. Thank you, Naruto, you're really good to me. She massaged the back of his neck and bit her lips. I love you. I really mean it. I know that my reputation has suffered throughout the centuries and I might not appear as someone who could be faithful to just one man. Hey, what are you saying? Naruto whispered gently. I fully believe. The goddess cut him off with a kiss. Please, let me finish. Naruto reluctantly nodded. Most of the stories written about me in mortal myths and legends are true. I am temperamental, flirtatious and seductive, but it is a little different now. I will only be temperamental with you, most likely when we disagree over what clothes to buy for our little girls. I will only be flirtatious with you, probably when we're in public because I love how you react to it. Aphrodite smiled as Naruto pulled her closer. And I assure you, I will seduce you every single night from now on, and only you, my love. She had tears welling in her eyes as she felt her emotions bubble to the surface. I have decided to leave everything behind and have a fresh start. This is completely new to me. I intend to find out everything about being family and a loving mother with you. Aphrodite kissed him again and smiled against his lips, and with Annabeth and Lacey and with our future children. Naruto ran his fingers through her luscious hair and kissed her tenderly on the forehead. I love you, Aphrodite, you really don't have to say anything. I fully trust you. I know, but I needed to say it for myself. She guided Naruto's hand to the red ribbon and helped him pull it down, allowing the small article of clothing to drop to the ground to reveal her perfect S. This is literally a fresh start for me. She smiled brightly and looked up into Naruto's eyes. I went to Hera and used her sacred bath. I used it to completely purify my body and to regain my virginity. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt an unprecedented surge of emotions rush through him. I've never done this before, but I believe that you are truly the only one for me and I wanted to do this for our relations. I don't know what to say, he whispered as he wiped the tears from her cheeks. You don't have to say anything. She pushed him down onto the bed and straddled his waist. Just make love to me, take my maidenhood and make me yours. She kissed him as softly as she could and spoke against his lip, forever. Naruto knew that no words could possibly convey his emotions to his lover at that moment, and the only way to do so was to use his actions. He kissed her with as much love as he possibly could and spoke inside his mind. I don't deserve this, but I'll give her something she deserves or die trying. 5th Avenue, New York City, Mother Ray's home. Mother, why are we suddenly moving? Hestia came home to see all hers and her mother's possession packed into Ray's small magic suitcase and their apartment was completely empty. Her mother had a smile on her face and held a house deed in her hands, looking amused beyond words. I bought us a house closer to your workplace, she said with a smile. It's right next to your new favorite nieces and Athena and Aphrodite's love. Hestia was shocked before she shook her head with a sigh. Why? Why not? Rhea chirped as she placed her hands on her S. Do you have any idea how boring it is to just sit at home all day watching the world go by? This little mortal man's relations with little Athena and Aphrodite is the only interesting thing going on right now and I'm going to enjoy it. She stood up and held her daughter's hand with glee. Most of my soap operas are becoming repetitive and no matter how much I complain to Apollo, they are not getting any better. Let's hope this little situation entertains me better than television. Mother, this is not a soap opera. Oh really? If you could sense the other goddesses the way I do, you would not think that. Rhea giggled as she pulled her favorite child along. Aphrodite has been at that mortal's home since yesterday and Athena is about to come visit them in the morning. This has entertainment written all over it. Hestia groaned and shook her head. This is not going to be pretty. No, not at all. There had never been a better morning. In the millennia that she had lived, never had there been a morning so perfect, so comfortable, and so right. She woke as if she was a cloud floating weightlessly in the blue sky. Hovering above the troubles of the world, completely separated from the rest of existence, she floated in bliss. It was as if all her cares and troubles had vanished and only her happiness remained. After centuries, millennia, ages, eons, she had finally found peace. And she would have never thought that her true peace would come in the form of one mortal man. Naruto, she spoke inwardly as a blissful smile graced her beautiful face. Oh, my wonderful Naruto. She knew her lover had his arms wrapped around her waist and she was resting her head against the crook of his neck. She knew that their legs were tangled together and their chests were attached firmly, and it all felt perfect and natural. It was as if she had been completed. Like two pieces of a puzzle, they were perfectly aligned and attached. It was where she belonged. It was her home. It was the once place that made her feel at peace and happy, with him. Dite, he softly whispered as his lips brushed against her forehead. She smiled at the voice and the fact that he was still asleep. It appeared that exactly like her, he was still dreaming of their night together after so long. The mere thought of it made her smile. It was the best night of her life. It was perfect. Never had she felt so loved or cherished. He noticed every twitch of her body, every expression of her face. It was as if he could dwell into her mind and pleasure her in ways she never thought possible. She was happy. Her husband was perfect in the bedroom. She could feel his body against hers at that very moment and she loved it. It was a wonder on its own that a simple candy store owner would have such a perfect body. Adonis couldn't have compared. Her love for him may have improved her vision of how he looked like, but that didn't matter. Her lover, husband, destined one was perfect. Good morning. Aphrodite slowly parted her eyes as her perpetual smile grew to match the one on Naruto's face. His arms were tightened around her as he pulled her closer, rubbing her body against his as he did so. His warmth enveloped her and she snuggled more into him, determined to be as close to him as possible. How'd you sleep? He asked, his voice a whisper. Like a mortal in Elysium. She kissed him softly on the neck and breathed in his scent. You make an amazing pillow. He chuckled and ran his hand gently across her flawless skin, a role I live for. He sighed in bliss and hugged her tighter against him. You are just so soft and warm. Just hugging you like this makes me want to sleep in. Can we? She whispered softly with her eyes close, letting the warmth and bliss take over. Let's just sleep the day away. It's Halloween tomorrow, he replied with a small smile. The girls will be up early and would want to make cookies and carve pumpkins. Aphrodite smiled at the thought and snuggled closer into him again. That would be fun too. How about we go take a shower then wake the girls? She giggled as she pulled away a little to look at him. Just take a shower, or are you thinking of something else? I'll have you know that I'm very good at multitasking. She laughed as she kissed him tenderly on the lips, nibbling on them as she pulled away. All right, good, but I am a little sore from last night so you will have to carry me to the shower. He smiled back and winked, your wish is my command. As soon as the couple stepped into the master bathroom, Aphrodite snapped her fingers, and the room morphed before their eyes. Naruto watched in fascination as the white tiles he had gotten used to over the years completely changed into elegant black marble. The white walls changed to the same shade of purple as the bedroom, and the small bathtub expanded into a massive black hot tub. A new steam shower stood in place of his old one and, along with the new black porcelain sink, was traced with golden rims. All in all, it was very nice. Naruto chuckled at the amazing change and marveled at the sight. He had always wanted a woman's touch in his home. With a swipe of her hand, the hot tub was filled with water with the jets on full blast. There we go, perfect. Naruto chuckled as he held his lover in his arms and carried her over to the water. I'm going to get so lazy if you keep doing this stuff. Aphrodite just smiled and kissed him playfully on the chest as they both sat down into the water, both sighing in relaxation at the hot water rushing against their skin. Naruto pulled Aphrodite onto his lap and held her close, letting her rest her head on his shoulder. Now, do you want to do this with or without soap? Hestia had to admit, their new home wasn't too bad. It wasn't as luxurious as their old home on Fifth Avenue, but she had never really been a goddess to care about such things. Unlike their gigantic apartment, their new house had a nice fireplace with a wide chimney, one where she could form a very nice fire and make some delicious s'mores. Artemis and Persephone would love it. She could already see some nice family dinners in the near future, but seeing that Naruto lived right next door, inviting Ares or Hephaestus might not be a good idea. Tia, come here for a minute. The goddess of the hearth looked away from the nice fireplace and walked back into the kitchen to meet with her mother, who was dressed very much like a normal mortal woman. With a pair of tight blue jeans, form-fitting tank top under a black blazer, the mother of the gods looked no less elegant and graceful than usual. Rhea smiled as she fiddled with her new kitchen appliances. She bought a completely new set of equipment personally designed by her grandson, Hephaestus. What do you want for breakfast, dear? Anything is fine. I would pick something good, replied Rhea with a bright smile. I conjured up some chairs on the balcony in the master bedroom. We could have our breakfasts there. The Titaness snapped her fingers as twin plates filled with eggs, sausages, bacon and toast appeared in front of her. If my timing is correct, the show should be starting soon. Hestia gave her mother a stern look. Mother, this is a matter of family, not some soap opera on televisions. You're right, this is way better than the garbage on TV. You are just gorgeous. With a smile, Naruto pulled the freshly dressed goddess into his arms and kissed her tenderly on the lips, nibbling at her lower lip as he pulled away. She was perfect. She was beautiful without trying, elegant without effort. With just a simple pair of tight gray jeans and a red t-shirt, she was still the most beautiful woman in the world. Her long red hair was tied into a simple ponytail, and it made Naruto's heart flutter. He had always loved ponytails. Aphrodite combed her fingers through Naruto's soft and spiky hair with a smile. You're quite handsome yourself. Lacing her fingers with Naruto's, the goddess led them out of the bathroom. No wonder so many women around you have feelings for you. Yeah, muttered Naruto with a sigh, those single moms at the girls' school are quite forward sometimes. The goddess giggled and shook her head. I'm not talking about them, silly. I'm talking about Percy's mother, Sally. Naruto almost tripped on the new carpet at her words. What? You're still as dense as ever when it comes to these things, said Aphrodite with a smirk. She could still remember when she first met Naruto and all the hints he missed from her. Yes, I can feel that Sally has somewhat of a crush on you. It was quite obvious, really. When she saw us kissing yesterday, I could clearly feel jealousy, even though she hid it very well. Naruto closed his eyes and scratched the back of his head. Well, what should I do? Just let it be. She knows that you're with me now and should give up soon. Aphrodite needed no reassurance. She knew perfectly that she was the most beautiful in the world and had no competition from any mortal woman. Besides, she might be your future-in-law, so you want to keep a friendly relations with her. Don't even joke about that. Aphrodite laughed at his horrified expression and pulled him downstairs. Come on, I'm a little hungry and I want you to make me some breakfast. She smiled back at him and winked. We still have to think of some way to introduce me to the girls. Right, mumbled Naruto as he scratched his head. He may be good at thinking up strategies for many things, but introducing a woman to his daughters would be much harder. We better start thinking about something. Annabeth is far too smart for some lame excuse. He smiled at his lover. We'll tell them who you really are sooner or later, but we should think of a nice cover story for now. How about, the goddess started as she sat down at the dinner table, we say that I'm your high school sweetheart and we started up again after all these years. That sounds pretty good. We can have a lot of fun with this. Aphrodite giggled and winked at Naruto. We can be a really cute couple, who met in high school and were really in love, but my parents don't approve of you and we end up splitting up. Naruto chuckled at the excited look on the goddess' face. We went to different universities in different cities, but we still have feelings for each other, and when he met again a few weeks ago we ended up getting together again. That's the plot of hundreds of movies I've seen on television. Aphrodite smiled proudly. I was the first one to give Apollo's sons such good ideas to make into movies. Naruto smiled and placed a cup of coffee in front of his lover. Okay, so we're high school sweethearts and sometime during after we split, we get together and make a child together. Yep, and they both resemble you more and inherited your blonde hair. Naruto leaned against the table with his mind wandering the possibilities. Ding dong. The doorbell knocked Naruto out of his thoughts and made him turn to the door. It was still quite early in the morning and nobody should be visiting them. Aphrodite followed after her lover, wondering if it was one of those people she had heard about from Hermes, the people who like to knock on doors and advertise about some god named Jehovah. She sure hadn't met a god with such a name. Hello. As Naruto's eyes widened, Aphrodite's smile vanished. Athena. The last thing Naruto expected in the morning was for Athena and some other lady to ring his doorbell. Aphrodite bit her lips and gave the other two goddesses a smile. Hey, what's up Athena, Artemis? Naruto's eyes widened again and resisted the urge to jump away. After reading so much on Greek mythology, he knew perfect who Artemis was. Seeing how he was a man and was a father of two demigod children with separate goddesses, he was expecting the goddess of the hunt to strike him down. Thankfully, Athena and Aphrodite were present, so he was probably safe. The goddess of wisdom seemed to avoid Naruto's eyes and focused on Aphrodite. We need to leave, spoke Athena stoically as she grabbed Aphrodite's arm and started to pull her away. Athena, wait, cried Naruto as he watched Aphrodite being pulled out of his home. What in Hades are you doing? Cried the goddess of love as she resisted, flaring her power as she did so. Let go of me, you stupid owl. Don't argue with us, Aphrodite. Artemis scowled at her eternal opposite and sighed. You've already spent enough time here, and you have to return to Olympus before you get into serious trouble. Athena nodded along. We have interrupted with his life enough. An unsurmountable anger filled Aphrodite. How dare they mock her love for Naruto? I'm not going back. Aphrodite glared at both goddesses and tuned her charm's peak. Let go of me right now. Without another word, Athena released Aphrodite. What I do here is none of your business, so leave me alone. Naruto, who was still shocked at the scene, finally broke out of his stupor and ran up to the goddesses. He quickly grabbed Aphrodite's hand and pulled her back a little. Dite, what trouble are they talking about? I know about the rules, but what will happen to you? Nothing. She glared at Athena and Artemis as her power grew. What I do in my domain is my business, and no god can tell me what to do. I've finally found true love after so many years, and I'm not going to give it up just because of some rules. Aphrodite pointed at the other two goddesses and stepped forward. I am warning you now. If any of you try to get in my way, I will curse you for all eternity. Athena and Artemis were shocked at how angry Aphrodite was. They had never seen her like that before. I will curse all your descendants. Aside from Annabeth, all your children will suffer the worst fates with love and all of them will kill themselves afterwards. Her power flared again as the ground started to shake, and I will curse all your hunters, Artemis, all of them will be forced to fall in love with the worst men in existence and all of them will abandon your order. Dite, calm down. Naruto hugged her from behind and pulled her back a little. Please, this will not help the situation. Artemis growled at the love goddess and summoned her bow and quiver. Don't you dare threaten my hunters. Oh, I dare. Aphrodite's power was growing rapidly and was slowly exceeding that of Artemis. I will even curse you. Even you will be forced to fall in love. Artemis would never admit it, but she felt a hint of fear as she stood in front of the raging goddess of love. She had almost forgotten that Aphrodite was one of the eldest Olympians and was a daughter of Oranos, the primordial of the sky, and was extremely powerful. If you dare take me away from my love, I will curse you to fall in love with Apollo. Athena stepped forward. This is going too far, Aphrodite. Naruto was straining to stand on his feet because of the power emitted by his lover. Dite, stop this. No. Aphrodite looked back at Naruto with pained eyes. I will not lose you again. Naruto's and Athena's eyes widened at her words. I love you, Naruto, I really do. I meant everything that I said last night, and I will not allow anyone to interfere with our lives. You are the one putting Naruto in danger. Athena stepped forward, adding to the pressure, making the streets shake. Ares will come and kill Naruto himself if you keep doing this. I will never let that happen. Aphrodite stomped her foot and stepped forward. I will personally castrate him if he dares come close to Naruto. Athena was once again shocked at her viciousness and conviction. Love and hate is only a flip side, Athena, and I swear of the river Styx that I will personally send Ares or any other person who tries to harm my love to Tartarus. Thunder boomed in the sky, marking the acceptance of the sworn oath. Athena's eyes started to glow as she suddenly summoned her golden spear. I will drag you back to Olympus myself if you don't stop this madness. A golden helmet formed on her head and she glared at Aphrodite. Your very presence here threatens the safety of Naruto and my daughter, and I will never allow that. Artemis' eyes widened at the sight of the potential battle between love and war. Naruto jumped into the middle and stood between his two loves. Please stop this. Both goddesses' eyes softened at his plea, but still stood strong. Move out of the way, Naruto. Athena stared at the man she loved and frowned. No matter how this may seem at the moment, this is for the best. Get over yourself, Athena. Aphrodite's red hair flared and stood upright in the air. The only reason you're mad at me is because I've done what you couldn't. Athena's form started to flicker, making Artemis wonder if she should jump in and stop the fight. I know you love Naruto just like I do, but you don't have the courage to act upon it. No matter how confident and wise you are, the notion of love frightens you to no end, and no matter how much you want to do exactly what I am doing right now, you can't. Naruto couldn't help but look over at Athena, his first love, wondering what she was thinking despite her stoic expression. You spent your entire immortal life trying to convince yourself that you would never fall for any man, and now that you've fallen for one, you're terrified at what would happen. You'd rather hide and run away from love, trying desperately to convince yourself with as many excuses as you could think of that this is only a phase and you would get over it. Aphrodite stepped forward as Athena's facade started to break. It's pathetic. I will never run away from something like this, and I would rather fade than let it just pass me by. She walked up to Naruto and tugged him over to her side. I know for a fact that this is something special and unique, and I'm going to cherish it. Dite. Naruto had no idea how to react. As much as he loved Athena, he had to admit that what he felt for Aphrodite was stronger at the moment. Feel free to run back to Olympus and hide in your temple, but I'm going to stay here. Athena had her eyes closed as her spear vanished, and her shoulders were slightly shaking. Naruto couldn't help but step closer to her. He gave Aphrodite a pleading look, making her sigh and let go of his arm. As the auras of power started to diminish, Naruto stood in front of Athena and placed his arms on her shoulder, trying to stop her from shaking. Athena. Slowly, Athena started to bite her lips and tears started to leak from her closed eyes, making her turn away from Naruto. He felt his heart ache at the sight and slowly brushed his thumbs across her cheek, drying her tears. Her eyes parted as she looked up at him, tears still flowing freely from her eyes. The softest sob finally broke free and she buried her face into his chest, making him wrap his arms around her. Aphrodite's eyebrow twitched at the sight. Naruto, she's fine, just let her go. Just let her have a moment. Artemis cried as she glared at Aphrodite, you are so insensitive sometimes. Should you really be talking, you dumb deer hunter? Naruto had never once thought that Athena would actually shed tears. She appeared far too powerful and dignified for such things, but he could feel her tears soak his shirt. Her usual confidence and godlike aura were replaced by an overwhelming amount of sentimentality. Naruto couldn't bear seeing his first love in such a state. He wanted to see that peculiar affectionate smile she would give him whenever he would make a joke, or even that angry glare that would petrify him, anything but seeing her cry. He delicately combed his fingers through her long black hair and held her closely. It's okay, Athena. Athena held onto Naruto's shirt with her eyes shut tightly. I'm just so confused. Aphrodite rose in eyebrow and continued to listen in as Artemis felt a little uncomfortable and out of place. I've lived for a long time, but I've never once felt so strongly about someone. Her shoulders were shaking as she tried to focus her thoughts. I'm a virgin goddess, Naruto, and I'm not supposed to feel like this. Aphrodite crossed her arms and nodded to herself. She knew perfectly that she was correct in her assumption. Athena had never been in love her entire life and was absolutely petrified at the fact that she was falling for a man. Never had the goddess of wisdom had to face an obstacle greater than her intellectual powers, but such a powerful love wasn't something she would reason through. Aphrodite's domain was rather irrational. She'd know. You don't have to force yourself into anything, Naruto whispered with his brows furrowed. You don't owe me anything, and no matter what you do with this, it won't change how I feel about you. Athena lightly shook her head from within the warm embrace. The problem is that I want this. I want to do what Aphrodite has done and I want to know what it feels like to have a family. She bit her lips as her pride prevented her from voicing her remaining words. I want to know what it's like to have a husband, a lover. You do have a family, the blonde said as he brushed some tears from her cheeks. You are the mother of Annabeth. We are her father and mother, we are a family. Nothing will ever change that. But I've never even spoken to her. Guilt and shame filled Athena as she held onto Naruto. Then why don't you just stay and meet her, like me? Naruto and Artemis turned to look at Aphrodite in surprise. I'm not saying that you should be staying here all the time, but what's stopping you from just coming here once a week to play with Annabeth? The ancient law prevents us from helping our children and stops us from interfering with their possible glory, but nothing stops us from just being a part of their lives. As long as we don't guide or lead them down a particular path and just let them make their own choices, there is nothing stopping us from being here. Aphrodite scoffed and shook her heads. Most of us can figure this out, but many just don't care enough to actually take the time to visit the children. She sighed. Lacey is the only child of mine that I care about at the moment, as horrible as it is for me to say that, it's true. Artemis sighed and rubbed her temples. Her logic is sound. Based on what I know of Apollo, he often visits his children at the camp inside his cabin, and father often overlooks it. The huntress' eyes linger on Naruto as he held Athena and narrowed, though if father were to find out that you're in love with a man, I have no doubt that he'd blast him to ashes. Not if I can do something about it. Aphrodite glared at the huntress. Even the king of Olympus will not stop me from taking love away. The goddess of love flared her power a little. Don't you dare tell your father about this or I will follow through with my threat. I will watch the world fall apart without my domain. The huntress glared back at the red-haired goddess. I won't, and you can rest assured of that. Athena gently pulled away, showing Naruto her slightly red eyes. So, would you mind if I stop by on occasion to visit you and Annabeth? Are you kidding? Asked Naruto with a bright smile. I would love it. Just as long as you don't stay in the bedroom. Aphrodite gave the wisdom goddess a stern stare. I said you can visit Naruto and Annabeth, but you better not think that I'm willing to share him. Naruto is mine and you better stay a virgin. Naruto blushed as Athena seethed. Mind your filthy words, you stupid pile of foam. Bite me, Minerva. Oh, I will kill you if you call me that again. Oh, did I strike a nerve there? Aphrodite sniggered with a hand delicately covering her lips. You should really calm down about the whole Roman deal, you're going to get wrinkles on your face. Athena let go of Naruto entirely and stomped the ground. How about I carve some wrinkles on your face with my spear? Oh please, you can't even put on lipstick without going out of the edge, you'll never be able to carve the right wrinkles. Naruto couldn't help but smile at the sight. Aphrodite was absolutely right when she said that Annabeth and Lacey acted exactly like her and Athena. Annabeth would stomp the ground and glare just like Athena did, and Lacey always had some clever quips up her sleeve to make her sister crazy. It was almost endearing to see the two goddesses fight over words. Would the two of you shut up? Demanded Artemis as her eyes glowed a silvery light. You shut up, you wild boar. I'm going to shoot your eyes out. Naruto chuckled as the third goddess jumped into the fight, but he was smart enough to not get in the middle of it. Daddy. Everything halted when the voice of a young girl pierced through all the arguments. Naruto felt a shock run down his spine as he slowly turned around to look at his front door. His mind was working 100 miles an hour when he saw Lacey peeking through the door still wearing her little princess pajamas. She tilted her head to the side and scratched her loose blonde hair with confusion. Who are all these pretty ladies? Dad, cried Annabeth from behind Lacey. Did you feel the house shake a few minutes ago? Naruto gulped when he saw Lacey turn to look inside the house. Annie, come here. Some dreaded footsteps were heard and soon Annabeth stood over her sister, also looking at her dad and the extremely beautiful ladies. Do you know these people? Annabeth crossed her arms and focused her gray eyes at the group of women. Dad, who are they? At the moment, his little girl's eyes looked more frightening than Athena's. Even Athena had to say that her little daughter really inherited her ability to glare at people. They are my sisters, said a sudden voice from behind the whole group. Lacey's eyes widened in joy and ran out of the door. Ms. Hess. The little girl ran past everyone and jumped into the arms of her absolute favorite teacher of all time. Why are you here? Hestia giggled at the girl and resisted the urge to laugh at the other goddesses. My mother, sisters and I just moved next door. She smiled at Naruto as she held Lacey close. I'm sorry if my sisters were bothering you so early in the morning, they wanted to greet the neighbors and introduce themselves. It's no problem, I was awake already. Hestia's warm red eyes appeared oddly frightening to Athena, Artemis and Aphrodite, and they shivered when the eldest Olympian gave them all a sweet smile. Mother is finished with breakfast, so you should all come home now, okay? Oh okay, Athena muttered with a nod as she walked up to her aunt. Artemis nodded along and stepped forward as well. Yes, I love mom's cooking. Aphrodite pouted. Can I ju? Now, firmly said Hestia. Okay. Oh, Tia, it's no rush. Hestia almost palmed her forehead when she heard her mother's voice. Breakfast can wait. We should be polite and properly introduce ourselves to our neighbors. One of the most beautiful women Naruto had ever seen appeared next to his daughter's teacher. She was even comparable to Aphrodite. She was definitely not old enough to be their mother. Athena's eyes widened as Artemis and Aphrodite made a weird choking noise. Mother Rhea. Oh, enough with calling me that, Artie, just be normal and call me mom. Rhea turned and smiled at Naruto, who blushed a little. So, you're the father of the nice little girl my daughter is teaching? Yes ma'am. Well, we'll also be neighbors from now on, we just moved in this morning. Rhea smiled at her daughters and giggled. Maybe we could have a nice neighborly dinner sometime. Naruto smiled nervously and nodded. That would be great. Now Thea, Artie and Dite, we should stop bothering this nice young man and his girls so early in the morning. The mother of the Olympians smiled and gestured them to walk up to her, to which they all followed as strict orders. Let us go home for now, you still have to pick your rooms and start unpacking. Hestia sighed and shook her head. Sure, let's go. Wait, cried Lacey as Hestia placed her back on the ground. Ms. Hess, do you want to come costume shopping with us later? It's Halloween tomorrow and we can go pick out cute costumes and make cookies and carve pumpkins. Well, Hestia was trying to think of the kindest way to decline the little girl's offer. Sure, that sounds really fun. Rhea smiled as she knelt down to Lacey and pinched her little cheeks. You don't mind if we all come, do you, little princess? Hestia's jaw dropped as Athena, Artemis and Aphrodite's eyes widened. Of course not. It's more fun with more people. Lacey smiled at all the gorgeous ladies and pointed at Annabeth. Annie's boyfriend is coming with us as well. Athena's eyes widened again as Annabeth blushed at the mention of Percy in front of so many strangers and glared at her sister. He's not my boyfriend, you little troll. She was still a little dubious about so many people moving into the next house. She thought an old couple lived there. And it was very strange that the mother of all the pretty ladies looked far too young to have so many daughters. Then there was that one lady. Thea was what her mother called her. She gave her a very peculiar and warm feeling, like she had seen her somewhere before. Lacey laughed at her sister before she tugged at her dad's pant leg. You don't mind, do you, Daddy? Naruto forced a smile and tried to not to shake from nervousness, and no, the more the merrier. Rhea gave everyone a sweet smile. Great, we'll see you all in a little while. Athena and Aphrodite each gave Naruto a nervous smile as they walked away, but his mind was far too overworked to function properly. Why the hell did the girl's teacher suddenly show up and how did she know Athena and Aphrodite? These thoughts haunted his mind, even as Lacey and Annabeth pulled him back into the house. He was in a daze. Then it hit him like a brick. Hestia. He resisted the urge to palm his face and groaned, my gods, I'm such an idiot. And just before Naruto closed his front door, he heard Aphrodite laughing very loudly. What the hell is going to happen now? The silence was slightly unnerving. In the millennia that the goddesses had known the mother of the gods, the titaness of motherhood and beauty, she had never seemed so amused. Instead of her usual warm and comforting eyes, she was gazing upon them like they were enacting a puppet show and she was the puppeteer. Even Athena, who was no stranger to using manipulation, felt very uncomfortable as she sat beside her sister in the small dining room. She had no idea why her grandmother decided to involve herself in the situation or knew what she was thinking. Overall, it was quite intimidating. So, started Aphrodite as she cleared her throat. This sure is an unexpected pleasure. Artemis and Athena nodded along, with the latter with a slightly forced smile. Indeed, but if I may ask, why did you come here, grandmother? Rhea was sipping on her cup of chia tea and merely smiled kindly at the girls. I felt inclined to be closer to family, so I decided to move here along with Tia. It's quite the convenient location seeing how little Athena, Aphrodite and Artemis would all visit the next house at the same time. Rhea gently placed her porcelain cup on its plate and winked at the goddesses with a sly smile, and just between us women, the owner next door is so very why. Loud clatters could be heard as Athena, Aphrodite and Hestia simultaneously dropped their cups onto their plates, almost shattering them. Hestia stared at her mother in shock as her eyes widened considerably, utterly horrified at the idea of her mother pining over a mortal man. Then Athena and Aphrodite, in a very rare moment, actually thought along the same lines, both wondering if Rhea would be competition. What in the name of order, mother? Cried Hestia loudly. Rhea couldn't hold in it anymore and burst out a laugh, her delicate features shaking as she brushed away tears from her eyes. You should see all your faces. All three goddesses sighed in relief and calmed down, but Ray's laughter was still strong. Don't worry. I'm not interested in taking your little boyfriend. Artemis sighed as she finished her tea. If we're only going to be chatting about some boy, I think I'm just going to go back to my hunters. Oh no, you won't. Rhea gave her granddaughter a pointed look. The two little girls saw you with us this morning, so you're coming with us later. But grandmother. No buts. Rhea crossed her arms and sternly stared at Artemis. It's been a very long time since I've spent time with my little granddaughters and stepdaughter, so we're all going to stay for the day and have a nice time. The Titaness smiled as Artemis relented and rested back on the seat, a tiny pout on her face. None of you have to worry about the others seeing all of us here and become suspicious. I've taken care of that. How? Asked Athena, who had been worried that the combination their godly energies in one place might have attracted Olympus' attention. Zeus gives me my own circle of privacy, so as long as I allow it, I can completely shroud all of you within my personal domain. I've been hiding all of you since this morning. If I hadn't, I have no doubt that Zeus would have already questioned all of you. Rhea smiled as a strange glint appeared in her eyes. And you are very lucky that no one but me noticed you coming here 2 nights ago, Aphrodite. The goddess of love looked over at her stepmother and bit her lips. I'm not breaking any rules coming here. Love is my domain, and my being with Naruto is a part of it. Technically, yes, but we all know that it's stretching it a little. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to leave Naruto again. Aphrodite crossed her arms and closed her eyes. This is something that I am extremely committed to and no one can change my mind. Yes, you were quite clear on that, muttered Artemis softly, still a little uncomfortable about Aphrodite's threat to her and her hunters. Athena couldn't help but frown at her words. If only I have the same determination as her in love. Hestia sighed and shook her head. I never thought you'd actually go this far. You are abandoning your temple, your immortal children and most of your duties just to be with Naruto. Far be it from me to say anything about committing to family, but this is a little too extreme, Aphrodite. As the goddess of love, I am only pursuing what I deem as real love. I've never loved anyone like I love Naruto, and I'm sure that I know better than anyone else that this is something extremely rare, especially among us immortals, so don't even bother trying to convince me otherwise. Hestia frowned, but Rhea placed a hand on hers before she could continue. Let it be, Tia, we should respect Aphrodite's own choices, it's her life and she alone should make the decisions. Aphrodite smiled and nodded, and Rhea gave her a knowing look. If she somehow managed to convince Hera to stand on her side, I'm sure that this is truly something special. Aphrodite's eyes widened as the other goddesses grew interested. What do you mean, Hera, mother? Rhea smiled at her eldest daughter and winked. If I'm not wrong, I think I smell the distinct aroma of the Hera's sacred bath on Aphrodite, and if Hera allowed her to use it, I'm sure the reasons behind this relations are quite strong. What? Cried the three goddesses in shock. Athena shakily turned to Aphrodite and stuttered, why you mean you actually regained your versus virginity and gave it to Naruto? Aphrodite merely turned to the side with her eyes still closed, answering the question. I never thought you'd go this damn far. Artemis was seriously wondering if someone had replaced the Aphrodite she knew. The love goddess she knew would switch between lovers every single day and would have more demigod children than Apollo. She would have never even imagined that she would do something so extreme. Something was seriously wrong with her and the man she loved. Alright, who in the name of Hades is that man next door? What in order did he do to you? Nothing. We simply love each other. Hestia gently reached for Aphrodite's hand and gave it a light squeeze. Please tell us this, Aphrodite, how is your relations with Naruto different from the ones you've had before? What is so special about him that you are willing to go so far? I doubt even Adonis or Ares would have such an effect on you. Aphrodite scoffed at the ridiculous notion and crossed her arms. There's no doubt, Naruto is the only person I would do this for. I'm really interested. Ria smiled as she rested her chin on her hands. He is handsome enough and seemed like a cute father, but give us details. How did you two meet? Before Aphrodite could speak again, Ria stopped her. Wait, Athena met him first, so you tell us first. Everyone looked over at Athena, who sighed and crossed her arms. Come on, little granddaughter, tell grandmommy about you little boyfriend. With a roll of her eyes, Athena spoke. Well, we met at New York State University. Daddy, can you change the cat litter? Annabeth held Einstein in her arms as she brushed its gray fur into a shining luster. It's Lacey's turn, but she won't do it. Toothless didn't even use the litter. Lacey glared at her sister as she finished getting dressed. Your giant gray ball of fur did all that and I'm not cleaning it. It's disgusting. Your dragon left a huge mess last time and I changed it. Naruto sighed as he walked into the girls' bathroom with a garbage bag and new litter. Stop fighting, girls. Lacey, it's only fair that you change it this time. You both agreed upon the schedule and must follow it. It's your responsibility. Naruto handed his pouting daughter the garbage bag and patted her head. Come on, princess, I'll help you with it. Fine, muttered Lacey as she stuck her tongue out at Annabeth. Annabeth scoffed and ignored her, but couldn't stop the smug smile from appearing on her face. She turned back to her kitty and combed through its soft fur. Its shade of gray was beautiful and very close to her own eyes. Gray eyes, the thought of her eyes reminded her of one of the beautiful ladies that just moved into the house next door. She had the same shade of gray in her eyes and she gave off a warm aura. Annabeth thought she might have imagined it, but she saw the woman's eyes soften as she looked at her. Her made Annabeth feel warm and cozy, not unlike her dad's hugs. I should talk to her later. Annie, said Naruto as he looked back at his princess. Einstein looks fine, go get dressed. The girl was still in her blue pajamas and nodded at her father, okay. Lacey, who had just finished with the littler, smiled and followed her sister. Wait, I'll come with you. The girl grabbed onto Annabeth's hand and grinned up at her. I won't let you dress the same as usual. Percy is coming over later and you should at least try to not look so boring. Annabeth sighed as she left the room. I do not look boring. You keep wearing only gray and blue, that's really boring. Lacey pulled her sister along as Toothless and Einstein trailed behind them. Come on, Daddy bought you that green sundress, right? Let's go try that out. The little girl giggled. You need to look pretty to get Percy to like you. I'll say this for the last time. I don't like Percy that way. I'm your cute baby sister. You don't need to lie to me. Naruto shivered at the conversation and just walked back into his living room. He had cleaned up a few days ago, but he was still fiddling around, trying to fix everything. If his assumptions were correct, 4 goddesses and 1 titaness were coming to his home to help with Halloween, as ridiculous as that sounded. He still couldn't fathom the fact that Artemis and Hestia were at his front porch, and he was still in shock that the mother of the gods had moved into the house next door. He swore, when he heard Artemis call the gorgeous blonde woman, Mother Rhea, his heart almost stopped. From what started out to be such a simple morning, it had certainly turned into the most stressful afternoon. With everything that had happened, Naruto's mind couldn't help but recall back to how Athena reacted to Aphrodite's words and how angry and passionate Aphrodite became when they wanted to take her back. 2 of the 4 most important females in his life were coming back into his life, and it was crazy exciting and frightening. Hopefully, the other 2 females, his 2 little princesses, would be happy that their mothers were back into their lives. I should vacuum the living room. So daring, exclaimed Rhea with a grin. A university professor having a child with her own student, that is so controversial. Athena blushed and sent her grandmother a slight glare. Don't say it like that. She had been mocked more than once by Aphrodite saying that she liked to have kids with her students, it was not her fault that most of her top students were very intelligent. He was my student, but he graduated before Annabeth was born. How boring Naruto must have felt, muttered Aphrodite. What did you two even do outside of school? Athena huffed and turned away. None of your business. Hestia sighed and rubbed her temples. Girls, don't fight. Artemis, seeing how the situation was once again turning into a spat between war and love, decided to speak up and intervene. So what kind of course were you teaching at the time? The huntress didn't really care, but any subject would be better than Aphrodite hounding at Athena about her dates with men. He must have been a good student if he managed to gain your affection. Athena actually smiled and nodded. I was teaching historical warfare as well as military tactics at the time, and Naruto was the top student in both classes. She fondly thought back to the brilliant strategies her love had developed all those years ago before she continued. He was a business major, but took my classes as options, so I was skeptical about him at first. As the class went on, he managed to achieve full marks on every single paper and exam I assigned, and absolutely crushed every one of his classmates in a war simulation. Artemis crossed her arms and nodded. That is impressive. It's not common for such a young human to be so adept at warfare tactics. Indeed, said Athena. In the many years I have been teaching such classes, Naruto ranks among the top 5 students. Ria snacked on some potato CS and smiled at her granddaughter. So I'm guessing you made a brainchild with him right after he graduated. Yes, I did. Naughty professor. Shut up, you damn pile of foam. So what else do you know about the man? Asked Hestia, trying to deter the group from descending into pointless insults. From what we all saw, he only lives with his daughters and doesn't seem to have any contact with his parents or other family members. Athena rested back on her seat in thought. I've never met anyone from his family. Aphrodite nodded along. She hadn't met any of the either. What I should add here is that Naruto cannot remember anything before his 16th birthday. He had an accident right before it, and after he awoke from a coma, all of his memories were gone. The wisdom goddess crossed her arms. I have tried on several occasions to rid him of his amnesia, but no matter how thorough I search his brain, I couldn't find any hidden or lost memories. I've tried the same thing, said Aphrodite with a frown. I tried to find any linger feeling of love, be it from his parents or old lovers, but I couldn't find anything. His mind was void of any information before his 16th birthday, and no matter how much power I use, nothing would surface. That is certainly interesting, said Ria with her head resting on her hands. A case of amnesia that both of you can't fix is quite rare and unexplainable. Yeah, when I have time I'll try to bribe Apollo to come heal it for me. Aphrodite wondered if she could offer even more glamorous lives to the sun god's children. Artemis scoffed. Don't give him too much credit. He may be the god of healing, but I'm sure his skills have dulled greatly after so many years of doing nothing. Do you know what kind of accident he was in? Asked Hestia with interest. It must have been something serious. Athena shook her head. When I checked the hospital database, all it said was someone found an unconscious young man in the middle of the university campus. He was transferred to the hospital and stayed there until he woke up a month later. He sure is mysterious for a mortal. Hestia nodded at her mother. I agree, this is certainly interesting. But anyway, we can get back to this later. Ria smiled at Aphrodite. I think it's our goddess of love's turn to tell us how she met this nice young man. Aphrodite grinned, making Athena roll her eyes. Well, it all started when I walked into his adorable candy store. According to a list Aphrodite had written for him, Naruto had brought home 3 boxes of chocolate to hand out to the children. It was most of the cheaper stocks of his company, but was still quite good quality. The goddess had insisted that they get rid of all of it so they would have more space to place the new inventory she had ordered from France. Naruto wasn't about to argue with the mother of his youngest daughter, so he did as he was told. Placing the boxes next to the table, Naruto refocused and started to fiddle with the pumpkins on the kitchen countertop. He had bought 3 of them, so it was enough both his girls and would still have one for backup. Though now he might have to give it to some of the goddesses to carve for themselves. Daddy, come here for a second. Naruto wiped his hands before walking upstairs to his girl's bathroom. His nerves were getting a little better, but his eyes were still trying as hard as they could to spot any specks of dirt of food on the ground. The last thing he wanted was for a goddess to find a piece of chocolate stuck to her feet. Thankfully, his staircase was perfectly clean, and he walked up to his daughters with relief. What is it, Princess? Lacey grinned, looking adorable in a pink sundress. We're done dressing, now it's your turn. Annabeth, who was dressed in the new green sundress her dad had bought for her, shook her head with a sigh. As if it was not enough that her little sister forced her to dress up like a doll for a simple Halloween preparation day, she was going to force their dad into the clothes of her choice. Frankly, Annabeth would prefer her dad to dress as he usually did. He already had enough women attracted to him, so looking more handsome would just be more annoying. Naruto sighed and patted Lacey's head. I'm already dressed. His daughter shook her head and poked him in the stomach. No, you look like you always do. You can't always wear the same black shirt and gray jeans. Sometimes you have to change your image so other people will not get bored. The elder blonde looked scandalized. I don't look boring. You look good, Daddy, but if you keep looking the same way every day, it will get boring. His daughter dragged him by the finger and pushed him into his room. I picked out some clothes for you, so get changed already. You know I'm the parent, right? Lacey stuck her tongue out at her daddy, but I'm better at these things. She closed the door and turned away. Ms. Hess and her sisters and mom will be here soon, so hurry up. Naruto smiled and chuckled as he shook his head. Lacey is so much like Aphrodite, it's crazy. He looked down at the clothes his daughter chose for him and smiled again, but this isn't so bad, way better than that weird underwear Aphrodite bought me. Outside of the room, Lacey grinned and gave her sister an thumbs up. Annabeth rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. Why are you doing this, Lace? Her gray eyes were oddly intimidating as she stared down at her younger sister, but the girl just smiled back at her. You're trying to make Dad dress up for the ladies next door. I know we both don't like it when the moms at school look at Daddy, but I think that red-haired lady next door looks great with him. Lacey giggled and jumped up and down excitedly. Did you see her? She's beautiful and I think she will make a great girlfriend for Daddy. We don't even know her. What would we do if they do get together and she turns out to be a bad person? Lace gave her a blank look, making her sigh. Besides, I am more interested in the lady with the gray eyes. Annabeth leaned against the wall and thought back to the lady. She seemed really smart and is also very pretty, so if Dad were to choose one of them, I would prefer him choosing her. No way, the red-haired lady is much more beautiful. It's not all about looks, Lace. Annabeth smiled and poked her sister's forehead as she grabbed her hand. Come on, let's go watch a movie or something before those ladies come over. Can we please watch How to Train Your Dragon? No. Unknown to them, Naruto was standing quite close to his door and had heard everything his daughter said. Not only was he shocked, but he had to wonder if they subconsciously felt some sort of connections with their mothers. Lacey wanted him to be with Aphrodite and Annabeth clearly preferred Athena. He sighed and combed his fingers through his hair, wondering what would happen from that point on. This is going to be very unique day. Right in the middle of a restaurant, muttered Hestia with a scandalized expression and a killer blush. Rhea chuckled as she snacked on some potato CS. That is daring, I must say. Aphrodite laughed and nodded. You should have seen Naruto's face when the waiter caught us. His face was so red and hot it was like it was glowing. He pulled his pants up as fast as he could and just pulled me out of the restaurant. Most people in the lounge were staring at us and the waiter didn't know if he should follow after us or not. The goddess clutched her stomach and wiped some tears from her eyes. I swear, he was fidgety for the 2 weeks and wouldn't even drive anywhere near that restaurant. Ria was chuckling and nodded. That's certainly understandable. I can't believe you tried to seduce Naruto in public. Athena glared at Aphrodite with her arms crossed with a disgusted look on her face. Hey, there is nothing wrong with having a little fun while waiting for a meal, and he was really enjoying it until the waiter caught us. Can we please talk about something else? Artemis was rubbing her temples and sighed for the 100th time in the past hour. This subject is tedious, repulsive, and would make most of my hunters want to shoot you. Aphrodite huffed. You and your virgin Girl Scouts will never understand. Ria chuckled. 3 out of 5 here will never understand. Hestia rolled her eyes. Really, mother? Ria kissed her daughter's cheek before she turned back to the love goddess. But going back on subject, Aphrodite, I think it is time for you to tell us why you love this man so much. The love goddess noticed that everyone was staring at her, and she merely smiled. I didn't really understand it at first, even as the goddess of love the first didn't know what I was feeling. She looked over at Athena and saw the wisdom goddess widened eyes, no doubt seeing the similarities of their situations. I knew full well that I loved Naruto, perhaps much more than all my other lovers, but it felt very peculiar. It wasn't solely based on our physical attraction, it was also very comfortable and natural. I just feel right when I'm with him, just really happy. That's almost exactly how I feel right now, muttered Athena inwardly, her mind racing at the speed of light to analyze her situation. That sounds really precious, said Hestia with a smile. I'm happy for you. Aphrodite smiled back at Hestia, who was probably her best friend, before continuing. I was deeply in love with him, so you could imagine how difficult it was for me to leave him when Lacey was born. Ria and Hestia smiled sadly and nodded. I tried to forget about it and get one with my life, but I just couldn't. I have never felt so strongly about someone before. I started to watch Naruto from Olympus, and the more I do, the deeper I was falling in love with him, especially when I see him playing with Annabeth and Lacey. He is a great father, muttered Athena softly. Yeah, out of all the fathers of my children, he is by far the best. Aphrodite smiled warmly and closed her eyes. I guess that was when I really started to see how special Naruto really is and how irresponsible all the other men had been. Ria smiled. I'm guessing this is almost when you spoke with Hera. Aphrodite nodded. I went to Lady Hera to ask if I could use her bath. I wanted Naruto back and figured that the results of the bath would make things easier. What I didn't expect was for Lady Hera to tell me why I am feeling so strongly for Naruto. Athena stared at the love goddess, making sure to listen attentively. She made me understand that I feel a familial love for Naruto. She smiled at the others sweetly. I love him as a lover and as a father of my little girl, and that makes all the difference in the world. Lady Hera said that this is what a wife would feel for her husband. It is completely different than what a normal boyfriend and girlfriend would feel for one another. Aphrodite's smile widened, and she's right. Wow, mumbled Artemis as she stared at Aphrodite, who looked more happy and genuine than the huntress had ever seen. Hestia reached for Aphrodite's hand and gave it a light squeeze. I've never seen you like this. Well, I've never felt like this. Aphrodite's smile was perpetual as she looked at the other immortals, and I really do think this is the real thing. Rei's smile grew as she grinned at her stepdaughter. What do you mean? If all things go my way, I'm going to make Naruto my immortal husband. Athena's eyes widened and almost crushed the armrests on her chair. Hephaestus and I had never been husband and wife, and I'm going to officially divorce him and marry Naruto. Are you sure? Asked Hestia with great shock. An immortal as husband is literally forever. For the rest of your life, which may be eternity, you will always be with him. Yeah, do you need to think about it more? Ria was happy for her stepdaughter, but worried that her decision was still premature. I know you've had a daughter with him and have been with him for a few months before, but that might be too little time for you to decide. Aphrodite merely gave the all a smile. I know full well what I am doing. As the goddess of love, the first can usually predict how long love between two people can last, and I can't see an end to this one. She finished her glass of orange soda and grinned. This is also the beginning of my life as a mother. Lacey is still young and it's not too late for me to be a part of her life. Artemis sighed. So you're really not going back to Olympus? Of course I'm going back. I have to keep Naruto a secret from most male gods until I marry him. Rhea and Hestia nodded in agreement at her words. I'm going to be on Olympus every few days and attend the council meetings, but other than that I'll be with Naruto. Know that I cannot hide you and the girls forever. I will only shroud your presence for this week, but after that the other Olympians will be able to sense you. Rhea crossed her arms and stared pointedly at her stepdaughter. In the end, you are stretching the limits of your domain and it would be against my personal standards to hide you from the council. I understand. I'll make sure to hide my presence to the bare minimum. Aphrodite stood and stretched her arms, and don't worry about Naruto and the girls. I may not fight often, but I am quite sure that I can defeat most of the council. If Lord Zeus and Lord Poseidon don't come after me, I should be fine. Let's see if she would still say that when Ares come for them, thought Artemis while shaking her head. Now, I think it's time to head over and carve some pumpkins. Rhea sighed, but smiled afterwards. Okay then, let's go meet my step-granddaughter and great-granddaughter. Hestia smiled and stood as well, and smiled when she saw the irritated look on Artemis' face. Come on little niece, I'll bake your favorite peanut butter cookies and make you shepherd's pie for dinner. The huntress' eyes sparkled as she looked up at her aunt, making her giggle. And if you are willing to help out with the pumpkin carvings, I'll make you sticky pudding with coconut ice cream for dessert. Trying not to drool, Artemis stood up. All right, let's go. Hestia happily pulled Artemis along by the arm and looked back at Athena. Come on Athena, you can go meet Annabeth. The goddess of the hearth had noticed that Athena had been awfully silent since Aphrodite said she planned to marry Naruto, and she was getting concerned. The wisdom goddess stood with her usual confidence and dignity and nodded. I know, let us go. Her gray eyes were determined and focused, as if she was going in war. Hestia bit her lip as she noticed the look on Athena's face. The last time she had seen such an expression was during World War II. It's time for my daughter to meet me. As Aphrodite walked through the door, Rhea looked back at Athena, a little surprised at the intensity in her eyes. Are you okay, sweetie? Athena merely smirked and nodded. Definitely, I haven't felt this determined in a long time. What do you mean? Asked Artemis curiously. Let's just say that I'm sure of how I feel about Naruto now and I know what I have to do. Athena flicked several strands of her silky hair back as she stepped out of the door. I'm no longer confused and I'm no longer frustrated. Everything is clear now and couldn't be simpler. The other immortals grew concerned at the power flowing from Athena and slowly followed after her. I know what I have to do and how to do it. Athena always has a plan and victory is always mine. Hestia bit her lip again in concern. What are you going to do? Rhea and Artemis stared along as Athena turned back with her intimidating gray eyes. Exactly what Aphrodite is going to do, but faster. She gave a soft laugh as she continued her way to Naruto's home. I think it is time for the goddess of wisdom and battle strategy to have a husband. What are you saying, Athena? Father is going to go crazy. Athena just smiled and ignored the others behind her. It's on, Aphrodite. I love Naruto just as much as you do and I'm not going to lose to you.